Case Season 2, Episode 24, Learning a Tune, Part 1. Learning a tune. I mean, really learning a tune, learning a song, right? Playing it without a sheet, playing in the band with your bass strapped on, playing it without staring at the guitarist's left hand to see what fret he's on, or without your eyes fixed on the keys player's pinky. How awkward. Having it down cold. Some people use the term memorize, and I think they're half right. It does start at memorization, whatever that means. I mean, when I think about memorization, I think about short-term memorization, where I'm trying to remember a number for a few minutes or something, and then it goes away. And the long-term memory is the stuff that you remember really well, And when I think about that, it becomes something bigger than memorization. It's absorbed into your system, like. For me, the changes to Satin Doll. I was just working on that with a student in my studio, and it's D minor, G7, D minor, G7, E minor, A7, E minor, A7, A minor, D7, and so on. But to learn it like that, I had to take it apart, like most of the tunes. Playing Satin Doll, playing Softly as in a Morning Sunrise, playing Autumn Leaves over and over again with the sheet in front of me did mostly nothing to have it down cold and be able to play without the sheet. The trumpeter Clay Jenkins, he visited my school for a concert and masterclass years and years ago. He played with Kenton and later on became a LA session cat, and it was the standard thing. We rehearsed with him and for the concert, and then we took seats, and he taught us how to get better as musicians. And he said he had been playing with some guys that were still using the sheet for Satin Doll, and I remember he used that too, that they were still using the sheet for Satin Doll after 30 years of playing, and that stuck with me. With that tune, as with many others I took apart, I mean, I literally took it apart. I didn't look at it as something, 32 bars, I've got to get into my system, memorize, etc., each and every bar. I looked at it as sections, right, as we all should do, So if you look at Satin Doll, for example, all the A sections are alike. All the 8-bar A sections are alike. So if I learn one A section, I've learned 3/4 of the tune, right? Because it's an AABA. So that all that leaves is the bridge. And then the bridge is a lot like Take the 8 Train. So when I learn the bridge of Satin Doll, I'm learning the bridge to another tune and other tunes. So this thing sort of catches fire slowly. And maybe don't start with a 32-bar tune. Maybe you go with a 16-bar tune like Summertime or Ladybird or Blue Bossa. Maybe you even go smaller than that. You start with a B flat or F blues. I mean, you definitely need that one. I don't think anything looks worse than someone calling up blues on a jam session or playing with people and someone needs to pull up their sheet or iReal Pro. And I mean, I resisted it at first. I mean, when I was first learning to do this, I had the real book. It's the fake book for jazz musicians, and I just make sure I bring a stand. Now, this was pre-iPad, tablet, iReal Pro, etc. But when I was doing that, it kept being mentioned, you should know this tune. I remember a jam session one night after a concert, and the guy said, no fake books on stage. But when I committed to this idea of that I wanted to know tunes, there's chord changes and the melody, things started happening faster for me. And where I went to school In the improv class, you had to play everything without the sheet. No excuses. You played the melody. You played the changes. You played the transcription. Everything. You soloed everything without the sheet. And that built up that idea, because basically it's mostly in our head that we need the sheet. What may have been helpful, and there was no excuses, right? But what may have been helpful is I started off as a rock band bassist. So everything was peeled off the recordings. And at that time, that was all there was. This is pre-internet. A guy would hand me a couple cassettes and say, that's what we play. And I'd take them home, cassettes, right? And learn, peel off the bass lines. There might have been some bass tab transcriptions at the time. I didn't use those because it was easier and better for me to pull it off the recording. And the more I did it, the better I got at it. And the more that I saw the patterns in music. And the better that I knew the tune, because you're constantly having to listen to that recording over and over again. So that gets into your system of how the tune moves, when it goes to the bridge, when it goes to the pre-chorus, etc. And I didn't know any better. I remember thinking about that recently. That was how all the other players were doing it. They were just peeling it off the recordings. And sometimes I'd have some problems and stuff, and I'd ask the guitarist that was playing, I'd say, how's this line move? What's happening with this chord? And he'd say, or they'd stop me and go, hey, great, but that's not the chord. We played this one right here. And it felt good, too. It was like solving a puzzle every time you did it, especially the ones that gave you problems, that you had to spend a little bit longer, and then you'd figure it out. And after you solved it, you were good. But like I said, for the rock band gigs, there were no sheets. There were no music stands on stage at the rock clubs. So when I started studying jazz and got my sight reading up, playing in large ensemble where there was arranged charts, and then there was chord charts, that got better for me. It was natural to learn chord changes, and most of them were in the real books. But I still had to go back and say, I got to get rid of the real book. I've got to get rid of the sheet and learn the changes and the melody. And I have students ask me about this all the time, and I don't know how to teach this, because I don't think there is any one way to do this. You have to find a way into learning these changes. Maybe it's every day you learn 4 bars of the tune. Maybe part of it is you compare it to another tune. I was comparing the bridge to Satin Doll and Take the A Train. The bridge of Alone Together is the bridge to Night in Tunisia. It's the same thing. And there's all kinds of parallels like that in music, especially jazz standards, rock music. Comparing things to another tune. And it's so beneficial for you, and it's exhilarating. I was just telling another student that when we play tunes and we don't have to use the sheet, it feels better because you're able to absorb yourself in what's happening on stage with the other players and listen. And it says something, it gives you some kind of street cred that to know a bunch of tunes on the bandstand, it means you've done your homework. It feels good. I don't have a music stand in front of me. I don't have to carry around a music stand or an iPad stand. I can really listen to what's happening around me. I can lock eyes and groove with the drummer. I can look over at the pianist and determine if we're going to finish this. One of my improv teachers, Mike Steinell, said that playing with the sheet in front of you was living in the past. And he explained it as that your brain can't keep up with your eyes, so that you're always a little behind with your ideas because that change is there. But if you know the changes are coming, you're already putting the ideas in your head. The worst part of it, if you don't do this, is that you get used to it. You get used to using the sheets all the time. And it's like getting used to mediocrity. If you have any questions, email me at phil@basscase.co. I'll talk to you soon.